What we'll be making today is some sourdough bread, and I like a cheese bread. We've gotten it out of a couple of places up in Lexington, and I like an Asiago cheese bread. So today that's what we're going to make, and it's got a list of ingredients that we'll follow fairly closely. But I'm going to begin with, I've already greased my bowl. I've got a bowl with some canola oil in it so that I can, when I'm done making the dough, I'll be able to put it in there and it'll rise overnight. All right, dough. And I'll start mixing my ingredients in there. 1/3 of a cup of sugar. I keep my spoons and stuff over here. Need a 1/3 of a cup of sugar. There's 1/3 of a cup of sugar. I need a 1/2 cup of oil. Like I said, I'm using canola oil. So I've got a 1/2 cup of oil. Plus I need some salt. I need a couple of teaspoons of salt. Now here's the Bakewell cream, and this is a product that a friend of mine in Maine had turned me on to. Now the main thing about this is that it rises so well is the fact that it contains no aluminum like baking powder does, and I like that idea. So I'm going to have 1 1/3 teaspoons of Bakewell cream. Okay, my wife, the videographer, told me that she was taking too much of my back, so we've moved me around this way, and hope it doesn't confuse you as much as it does me. So we've got the Bakewell cream in there, so now I need to put in 2/3 of a teaspoon of baking soda. Alright, now I need to get some warm water. I need 1 1/2 cups of warm water. For that, I'll go over to the sink. All right, I'm going to add most of the water, and I need 1 2/3 cup of starter. And again, I'll tell you about the starter here in a little while. I stir it up a little bit first, and with this starter, it's so nice that you can keep this in the refrigerator rather than the typical starters that I've had in the past. I'm using 1/3 cup measures, so I'll use 4 of them. And if I don't happen to be making bread, then I will take out a 1.5 cups or so each week and then just rejuvenate the starter. And again, the starter is very nice to work with. And I need 8 cups of flour. And again, I'm using a bread flour this time. Top of there. And again, I'm going to make put 8 cups in here. Now that's 7. I'll put the 8th one in after I've mixed it up a little bit and make sure that I like the way that the elasticity is running on it. And I'll turn it at low. And I find I may need to add more water, may need to add more flour, but it's just as the way that my eye sees it that I want it to turn out. It should turn into a nice ball, but I want it still kind of moist. Okay, after it's pretty well mixed up, I'm going to pick it up and out from the mixer. I'll of course put some air bubbles in there and stuff too, because it will rise overnight, and that Bakewell cream and the sourdough will create a lot of airflow. And we'll give you a look in the bowl here in a couple of minutes and let you see what the elasticity factor is I'm talking about. Alright, that's getting there, so I'm going to scrape the sides down. So now what we'll do is we'll pour that into a oiled container, an oil pan, and let it sit overnight. Cover it and let it sit overnight. Let's see, I'm going to need a little bit more oil. Just a drop or two. Okay, and we'll let that sit overnight, covered. Should be enough in here, I suspect, for 3 loaves and maybe 1 large boule. Hoping that anyway. And that's what we're doing today. We'll get back to you with the rest of this recipe tomorrow. And thank you very much. Okay, what we've done so far is we've made the basic bread recipe, the sourdough bread recipe. But what I want to make this time around is the Asiago cheese bread, which I like so well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to coarsely grind up some soft Asiago cheese. Now this happens to be boar's head, and we get it at a nice deli up in Lexington. And so use the wider gaps on your grater, if you would, and grate up about 5 to 6 ounces of this. And once you have that pretty well grated up, you simply add that to the dough that you have, and you continue on making it into a firm ball. And that's all there is really to the difference between that and the sourdough bread recipe. All right, and we'll continue on, and then we'll let it sit overnight, and it'll be a nice firm ball that we can work with tomorrow. Okay, we're back, and oh, it doubled, all right, more than doubled. So we'll flour our kneading surface, and keep that handy because we're going to need more, and get your hands lightly floured, and simply dump all this dough out onto it. That should come away from the pan fairly cleanly. So now using a pastry blade, oh yeah, a lot of elasticity there. It's going to make at least 3 loaves, I think, maybe 4. And get that to where that you can start working it with your hands. There we go. Oh, it's nice and spongy. With the addition of the Bakewell cream to that sourdough, puts a lot of little air holes in here. And that's the kind of texture I like. Okay. That looks just about right. Now what we've got to do with it next is cut it into pieces, and I think we're going to go for 4. Well, maybe 3. Seems a little small on that side. And I've got loaf pans that I've already sprayed with a baker's spray flour, and that works real well to me. Plus the fact that these are loaf pans that are non-stick in the first place. So take each segment loose and play with it a little bit, and then drop it into the loaf pan. It'll be a nice big loaf here. Oh, I can't wait for the taste of this. It's going to be great. Now what we're going to do is let that sit for about 4 hours. And after it has risen to the maximum there, then what we'll do is we'll snip it with some scissors to get some snips in the top of it, so whenever it expands even more in the oven, it sort of gives it a little bit of rough edge crust. And we're going to brush it with a beaten egg, and that'll be about 4 or 5 hours from now. All right. And that's it from now. We'll be back soon. Welcome back. We've allowed the dough to rise for about 5 hours, a little over 5 hours, and it's in a couple of these it's grown up quite nicely. And the bubbles, you can actually see air bubbles in it and stuff like that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to, while the oven is preheating to 450 degrees, we're going to beat an egg. Nice little kitchen mop here. And you don't want to put too much pressure on the dough because it's real fragile right now. A lot of air in there. The steam or the smoke that you see coming out of the oven here is actually steam. I've got a pan that we'll show you here in a minute underneath the shelf that is filled with quite a bit of water, and I like to steam the bread the first few minutes. I even spritz some fresh water on it. Now what we're going to do is use a pair of kitchen shears, and I'm going to cut some diagonal lines in it. And that gives it some texture that's pleasing to the eye, and also builds the crust up a little bit on the top. And the crunchier that gets, the better I like it. Okay, now we're going to place this in, like I say, a 450 degree oven, and for about 30 minutes. That steam gets pretty scalding when you first open the door, so be careful. Also now, I'll show you that almost immediately I'm going to spritz it with the water. And I'm going to do this every minute or so for the first 5 minutes. And we're going to cook that through till it's about, you can see that it's golden brown. On my oven, the back part is a lot hotter than the front, so about halfway through I have to rotate the pans. And after about 25 minutes or so, I'll take a long, like toothpick type thing, and I'll stick in and see if any crumbs come out. Or you can use a thermometer and try and get the center to 205 degrees. And that's it for now. Okay, they've been in there about 25 minutes now, so let's open the oven and take a look and see if it's time to start paying a little closer attention. Oh yeah, getting nice and brown in there, and you can see some bubbling and stuff. And we're just about ready. The perfect timing there. That's 30 minutes exactly, and I think that putting them on that upper middle shelf in the oven has allowed them to crust up real nicely. Oh, good and crusty. That steam does the trick, and that's pretty clear. All right, we're going to take them out. All right, now, what I want to do is turn the oven off and let those cool for about 5 minutes, and then turn them out of the pans, and then I'm going to stick them back in and allow the bottoms and sides to crust up a little bit more. Okay, the pans should be just about cool to the touch now, and they are, and so we'll try turning them out and see how they look. And turn that back over, let it cool a little bit this way. And now you don't want the steam, and that steam is, water has evaporated now, so there's no steam, but you don't want the steam at this stage. And we'll let them sit in there with the door open for about another 5, maybe 10 minutes. And they should be ready to eat. And there we have it. We have 3 loaves of my Asiago cheese bread made with a sourdough type batter. And I think they're going to be real tasty. Still a little warm yet to cut into. So let them cool to just above room temperature and then cut into them. And we like to share them with a homemade butter or a double clotted cream, a British delicacy. And I hope you enjoy the recipe, and I hope you try it soon. Thank you very much.